Good morning and welcome to this Impact webinar. Where we'll talk to you about moving from a product focus to a service focus in your B2B company and how you can create a competitive edge working actively with services towards your customers. We're two speakers, as you see today. I'll start with myself. My name is Christina. I'm an experience manager here at Impact. I have over 15 years of experience with customer experience, digital strategy, business development, and the combination of understanding customers and creating a business value from that perspective. And we have Rune.
Yes, and I'm a senior customer experience strategist. I have several years of experience with value-adding services. I have a background with research from Aarhus University, but I have also been at different consultant companies working with how we can actually build the bridge between creating customer insights and transforming them into strategy and value-adding services and concepts and solutions, which is actually main focus for this webinar today.
Yes. A little bit about the agenda. We'll start out just talking very briefly about Impact. Some of you might know Impact, some of you might not. We'll just briefly cover that. Then we'll talk a little bit about what is value-adding services, and we'll give you some cases on the value creation that it can be made with services. We'll also talk a little bit about how services can be a differentiator if you do it right. And we'll also talk about how you can embark on a journey towards value-adding services, how you can build value-adding services within your company. And we'll leave you off with 5 things you should consider, some takeaways from today. And of course, we'll also have the Q&A. And about the Q&A, use the chat function here in Zoom, and we'll pick up on your questions and we'll answer them at the end.
Yes.
So a little bit about Impact as a company and the way we have conducted business throughout the years. We're a fairly old company, established in 1998. We are today more than 200 employees and spread over offices in Aarhus, Copenhagen, Odense, and Lisbon in Portugal. We are a very solid company and we have seen a lot of growth throughout the years. And one of the key success factors in that is that we build long-lasting relationships with our customers. We want to build our customers' businesses, and that's why we have long-term relationships with them. We are a company with great diversity in different disciplines. We have, of course, the UX concept and digital design, which is the area that we represent here today. But we also have, of course, a wide variety of different tech departments and also PIM and also marketing. And one of the core elements in our diversity is that we insist on integrating these diversities in technology and business and experience together. One cannot exist without the 2 others if you want to create great commerce experiences simply. And some of the things that we've seen as a company is that, and also see in our customer companies, is the move from technology to experience. We saw that in the wake of the whole digital transformation era that we have been in for, well, at least 10 years or something like that. We saw a very large focus on what can technology do for your company, what kind of technology, what data is available. In recent years, we have seen a shift in that. It's more about how you can actually apply technology to create great experiences, because there is an acknowledgement that it's in the experience that the value lies. So in order to answer how, you also have to know the why, the who, and the where, and the when. And that is, of course, some of the disciplines that we excel in. To actually know the customer and the context is really important if you want to create good experiences.
Yes. So if we just will talk a little bit about what we actually mean about these value-adding services. And these value-adding services, it's the additional value we actually provide tailored to the customer experiences. It's something that you put beyond the products of yours. And when we do projects that focus on developing new value-adding services for your customers, we are very focused on taking a service design approach, meaning that we don't just focus on digital touch points or digital services or technologies. We are very, very keen on actually focusing on all the different activities, customer activities and customer touch points, both analog and digital, in order to actually encompass and the complete customer journey. When we talk about these value-adding services, we have two ways of looking at them, horizontal services and vertical services. If we start by looking at the horizontal services, so then it's about improving existing touchpoint in your customer's journey. So for example, it's about providing additional services, for example, in a purchase situation, in a delivery situation, in situations where you already have some kind of touch point with the customer. When we look at the vertical services, it's about actually adding touch points to your customer journey where you don't have touch point at the moment. And we'll come back to that later when we actually focus on customer journeys, and we will present how you can actually work with both vertical and horizontal services. But let us just share two examples or two cases on different value-adding services. This is the cases, Carl Ras and Würth, two cases we have made, we have developed together with our clients. Carl Ras, which is a horizontal service, and Würth, where we actually created a native app, where we provided additional touch point in the customer journey. But if we start with the horizontal service, the Carl Ras case, this is actually a quite large and very nice project we did together with Carl Ras. We both did desktop, tablets, and smartphones, and we reworked the complete e-commerce experience. And we made a variety of different services and developed new services for Carl Ras's customers. But what I want to dig a bit deeper into is the value-adding service of basket approval. But before I come to that, I will give you a bit of background information, because we did a lot of interviews and observations, interviews with craftsmen and craft managers of craftsmen. And what we experienced was that a lot of managers of many people managing craftsmen experience a lot of challenges when they have a lot of different construction sites, different projects they have to manage. And they have to manage what kind of products are being purchased for different location, different construction sites. And these managers has maybe 10 employees that purchase product from Carl Ras maybe once, twice, 3 times a week. And there are some different challenges, both in ensuring that the employees purchase the right products, but also sometimes managers experience that there are some fraud employees purchasing products for themselves. So what we ended up developing was this basket approval functionality. And what you see here on this smartphone display is that an employee, craftsman employee, actually has put in some construction materials in the basket. selects, well, is it something I'm going to pick up at the store, or is it something that I'm gonna have delivered? And then the employees swipe to request an approval from the manager. And the second after, the construction manager or the craftsman manager gets this notification and can then approve the basket. In this way, we have actually created a service that improves the existing touch point of the purchase. We provide additional value to the managers of these craftsmen by providing transparency, ensuring that the manager can review the orders before they are completed to ensure that it's the right, exactly the right materials that are being purchased. And of course, with this feature, we also minimize potential fraud. So it's much easier with this service to manage products and projects. So that was one case of value-adding services that we created that was a horizontal service, improving existing touch points. If we look at the Würth case, where we created this native app, it's a vertical value-adding service. So it's about creating additional touch point in the customer journey. Just to give you a bit background information, these red shelves are placed in craftsman shops or craftsman businesses in the workshops. And whenever a craftsman has a job, for example, has to fix Fru Hansen's window, he or she will grab a box of nails or screws and bring to the construction site. Before we did this project, we experienced that one challenge is that managers, when Fru Hansen's windows are finished, he has two options. Either he would make a rough estimate of how many materials, how many screws and nails were used for this specific project, or he would take the cost of the materials on his own cost. And this was a quite huge challenge. So what we actually ended up designing was this SoftScan app that provided better and easier invoicing and management for both the employees, but also the managers. So for example, here we have a screenshot of the app. It lists all the projects. And this is an app that all the craftsmen and employees of a company has installed on their app. So here is the projects. Whenever an employee grabs a pack of screws or nails, he will scan this barcode just underneath the shelf, and the materials are automatically added to the project, to this specific project. So when the manager has to invoice for Hansen for the window project, he gets a list with the specific details and a list with specific materials of what have been used for this project. This means that Fru Hansen only pays for what is actually used, and it also means that the manager, the craftsman manager, can actually run a more cost-effective business. And furthermore, with this vertical service, we actually created several touch points for both employees that have the phone that will scan products, but we also create additional touch point for the managers whenever he or she are going to make an invoice. So here we actually created additional value for Würth's customers. Yes.
Yes, and I think it's pretty clear that these services, as Rune states, create a lot of extra value. There is a lot of extra functionality that is applied that was not there before, and connects with the user in another way. I'm going to talk a little bit more about actually creating that competitive advantage with services, and what you should really consider if your service should be competitive and do something for you in terms of competition. Well, of course, competing on product and price have issues, right? You could work the best product, you could manufacture the best product, but there will always be manufacturers from China and elsewhere that could easily copy that product. It's been seen once and once again, and I know it's a great pain point for a lot of manufacturers. And because they can manufacture it at a much lower price, obviously price is not a primary competitive factor either. So, and also, what if your product is simply just a commodity? What if it's not unique? It could be a lot of the supply companies well, they do not have a unique product. And what if the price is fixed by government regulations, for example? You cannot compete on that. So what do? Well, you differentiate with services, obviously, like Rune talked about. Because the way that you choose to engage with your clients is much harder to copy than product features, right? Because if you do it right, you have a unique service that translates both your specific knowledge of your customers that you've built for many years, and also your specific unique experience and expertise. And a lot of B2B manufacturing companies do have a long history of actually connecting with both their customers, their markets, and they're also experts within the fields that they work in, not just manufacturing, but also translating the value that they bring. And I just put an example of this here. This is the German pharmaceutical company Bayer, known for the infamous product Roundup. And what Bayer does here is that, of course, this is a page that tells about Bayer's products, but they do something else with the page than just display products. They put innovation first, because they're a 120 years old company, and of course they can say that they know something about actually bringing value to the world through pharmaceuticals, and they choose that strategy here. They put innovation at the top, and by that differentiating themselves from just being a product company. So they put in this service layer, actually. That is exactly what the Würth and Calas case also shows, that it's with a digital service, you can let your customer experience your company's unique value offering in ways that you cannot do if you just ship products to your customers, because it lets you simply experience the product in other ways. Also, I've had clients that it could be within manufacturing, it could be within machinery or building material, that once the product is purchased and installed in a house or in a factory, the customer no longer experience that product value. And and perhaps does not even experience the unique features that you've put into this machine or whatever it is that you've manufactured. So you need this service layer to continuously connect with the user and telling them about new features or what it could be with your product. So this is a great opportunity for a lot of B2B customers to actually engage and translate the value of their products. And as I talked about, the customer-centric perspective here is really important, because to design a digital service that is really relevant and that actually stands out and that connects with your customers, you have to be really aware of knowing your customers really well. So of course, it all starts here, right? It starts with knowing the customers and knowing what are relevant features for him. And relevant features for the Würth app was, of course, based on interviews and on studies that showed, well, this is a pain point for this company. This is a pain point for the user also. So it starts here, right? And from there, you have to also consider the ease of use, because if an app like Würth is to have success, it needs to be really easy to use, because it needs to be an extra tool for the craftsman, right? So it needs to be built really thoroughly. It also has to have the right look and feel, because you cannot just apply features in the service without considering what is the actual look and feel of the product, and that's also very contextual. It's also very based on the user and the target group. And all in all, this creates your brand experience. And the thing is that even though if you consider designing these layers or you do not consider designing these layers, they will still be there. And there are many examples of apps and other applications where there is a very large focus on the feature part, providing all these great features, or if it was back to the bio website, telling users about all the great products. But if you do not design these layers, there is a high risk that the user will never even experience the great features of your products or your brands. So this is a very important perspective. So we've established that selling products online today, well, it does not have a creative advantage in itself. It's not enough just to put your products online and then hope for somebody to acknowledge all the great features that it has. You have to really consider how you do it, and how you do it should be really based on the user in context. You have to really embrace the context of the user and know when it's relevant to push products to him. Sort of enter into his context and providing the products there, instead of expecting the user to leave his context and going over to your web shop and buy the products you need. So contextual commerce here is really important.
Yes. So let's talk about how we work with these value-adding service projects, and how you can actually and what you can do right now. When we, as Christina mentioned, it's really important to understand the users. What we have very good experience with is that we focus on two things. One is our client's business, and the other thing is the customers, our clients' customers, because it's very important to both understand the business's purpose, strategy, culture, DNA, products, and offerings, in order to find out what kind of company do we have here. And on the other side, we have customers with needs, challenges, motives, drivers, and so on. And it's about finding the intersection of our clients' companies and their customers, because it's within this intersection that there's potential to actually creating these value-adding services. So if we start by looking at your businesses or our clients' businesses, the way we work with this and the way that we work in these projects is that it's neither a matter of top-down or bottom-up approach in these projects. It's much more a balance between both involving management level and also involving employees. However, we tend to approach the different management level in certain ways and employees in other ways. And just to give you an example of how we actually work with management level, we work with management level in order to actually understanding the strategy of the company, the DNA, and then we do that by creating these workshops where we map out what is the purpose of the company, what kind of digital visions does the company have. And some of our clients, they are very mature and elaborate on formulating their strategies and visions and so on. Other of our clients are happy to get more collaboration together with us on that part. But for us, it's very important that we bring the strategy and the company's DNA and purpose up front in our projects, in order to understand what is it that this company and this management actually want to be for their customers. On the other side, we also work with the employees, because the employees are very crucial to their success when talking about value-adding services. These employees are often people that is actually in the front line towards your customers. So they are the ones that interact maybe daily with customers, have a lot of knowledge about customer needs and frustrations and so on. So it's crucial for us when we do these projects to also involve employees in the project. We do this in what you see in the left picture is actually mapping out a customer journey together with employees from different departments. On the right, it's we work on ideating, developing value-adding services together with the employees. And what is very crucial here is that I just taken here, this is a generic organizational diagram, but what is very crucial here is that we think of these value-adding services as something that goes across the different departments. So it's about breaking down the silos, and we actually do that in the workshops. We create these collaborative workshops where we bring people together, sharing knowledge and different perspectives on challenges and possibilities. But doing this both in management level and with the employees, we can actually break down these silos, but also creating new value-adding services. So that was actually what we typically do when working with the business side in the projects. If we take a look on the customer side, because as Christina mentioned, creating relevant features and with emphasis on relevant, we need to have a deep understanding of the customers and their needs and challenges and drivers, what is important for these customers. To do that, we often do interviews, observations, customer insights. This is actually from the Bjørk case. These pictures, and we often get extensive amount of materials, complex insights and data, and we take these data and materialize it into personas or customer types as this one, but also into customer journeys. These customer journeys are a very nice tool to actually more clearly communicating the most essential parts of customer insights. But it's also, and I will show you in a minute, we also use these customer journeys as a springboard for developing value-adding services. You have probably already worked with customer journeys in your companies, but just to make it clear, these customer journeys consist of an experience curve. That's the green one you see up there. And then we have touch points, and touch points, we look at touch points as all direct and indirect interactions with your company. So of course it's when purchasing a product or using the product, but it's also the indirect if they see an advertisement in a magazine about your company. And then we have activities, and activities are all activities that your customers does in an everyday work life. So it's not necessarily in relation to your company, but it's in relation to all the different tasks, jobs, assignments that these people have in their everyday work life. When we look at this customer journey, then we can, for example, see here, we have a dip in the experience curve. And we can actually see we have a touch point here. So here we can strategically decide to actually work with a horizontal value-adding services to improve or lifting up the experience of the customers here. If we look at here in the customer journey, we can see the experience curve is actually quite nice, but we actually don't have any touch points. And here we can actually say, well, maybe we want to actually add additional touch points or vertical value-adding services in this part of the journey to strengthen your brand or your customers' awareness of your brand. So we actually use these customer journeys to analyze the journey, but also to strategically identify the opportunities for where we can develop new value-adding services, either to get new customers or retain existing customers, and hopefully, of course, both. So that is very much what we do on the customer insights part. Of course, as I mentioned before, it's the intersection between both your business and your customers that is important. So, and it's there we see the opportunities between the business and your customers. So, to round up this webinar, we have listed here 5 things we think you should consider. First of all, try to understand your competitors' competitive landscape. Who are your competitors and what do they do? Having an understanding of that. Then try to list down what are your customers' top 3 motivational drivers. And it's not money, but it's what is important for them. What makes their work life great? What do they enjoy the most? But also then list the top 3 frustrations, and be aware here, focus on activities and not only touch points, because when you focus on the activities, you have the opportunity to actually develop these vertical value-adding services, providing new touch point in the journey. Then consider, what do you actually want to be for your customers? What kind of purpose does your organization have? What kind of value do we want to bring to your customers? And then what are the top 3 challenges and strengths in your organization? Is your organization a very silo divided organization, or how is your organization? Because that is important for when you are focusing on what kind of services you should develop. What is your possibilities within your organization? And lastly, try to both with the insights of your company, what you want to be for your customers. On the other hand, try to look at your customers and see where is the overlap in the intersections, the spaces of opportunities between your customer needs and drivers and your business strategies. Because it's within that sweet spot that the value-adding services has the best potential to be a success. So that was 5 things that we think you should consider, and you could consider already today, in order to maybe take a more focus towards value-adding services, creating value beyond awesome products. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that marks the end. We'll just check if there are any questions here. A couple of questions. Will the webinar be recorded and available afterwards? Yes, it will be available on our website. Yes. Shortly after this presentation. So yes to that. And how do you measure the experience curve? And I think this question is in relation to the customer journey. Yes. So I'll let Mona answer that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's very, when we create these customer journeys, we often do it based on qualitative insights and research, so interviews, observations, and so on. But at times we also combine it with quantitative insights, so surveys and so on. And that's how we can actually we create this experience curve to identify, well, how much of a pain or what kind of gain does the customers experience here. It's not something that we continuously measure. We could do that, and it could be quite interesting, but we primarily do it based on qualitative and quantitative research.
Do you have any light approach to help my company? I think we'll have a light approach. I think the approaches that we do, of course, we have very large companies that need a new strategy for their whole digital endeavors. But even the biggest companies, in my experience, it's always a good idea to start small, right? Think big and start small. And what we see is that a lot of companies often have one of the large management consultancy companies actually creating a digital strategy for them. And the digital strategy is good, but it's even better when put into action. And I think that's how we often approach this, is see, okay, if we want to actually obtain these goals, be very specific of what goal you want to pursue first, and try it out, do some prototypes, do some minimal viable products for that specific purpose, get some understanding of what actually works in the combination, like Rune said, with your business and your customer intersection, what is actually working here, and go about it that way. So think big, but start very small when actually designing these services, because I think what we've seen also is some of the best services is the very precise value adding services that does something very specifically for a customer and is therefore very understandable by the customer. So this is also something to consider.
Exactly, and just to add to that, and that's also why we work with the customer journey maps in this way, by isolating, analyzing where specifically in the journey do we see a potential for actually creating a value. So we need, when we do that, we are more strategic, we are more focused, and we are more focused on creating the right value for the customers, and can do that much more precisely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, prototypes and user tests of a service, like I mentioned, is something that we obviously do because because the whole service design, the whole service creation should be very much a customer-centric, like I said earlier, driven process for enable to make it work right. If you want to create that competitive advantage, you really need to test a lot, and you really need to apply the knowledge you have of your customers very carefully, because or else it would just be another commodity service, right? You want to look for that uniqueness in creating the service.
Yeah, and just to add, we have also done projects with clients of ours where we invited their customers to actually evaluate the different service initiatives, the different concepts together with their key customers. So that's also a way of testing and evaluating, is this actually something that will create this value for the customers that we actually expect.
Yes. All right. That seems to be the end of the questions. Please, if anyone have any further questions or comments to us, our contact information is put on this page. We also have more webinars coming up, one in this week actually about microservice architecture, and also in June. So be sure to tune in again for more knowledge from us. And thank you very much for participating this morning. Yes. We hope we gave you some relevant insights to take into your business and start considering the service creation layer of your business.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.